Astyages was the last king of the Medes. Cyrus the Great was the first king of the Persians. Cyrus the Great was the grandson of Astyages. So that might seem like a little bit confusing. They came from two different tribes, but they were relatives, basically. So Cyrus the Great was the son of the daughter to Astyages, but Astyages never liked Cyrus from the time before he was even born, and there is a reason for that. Um, and in fact, out of this hatred for Cyrus, there are a lot of stories that have been told about Cyrus the Great, and some are kind of mythical about him. Some people say these are stories that he himself generated to create this mystic or this impression on the people about himself. So his birth and everything that happened immediately after led to the end of the Mede Empire and the Median Empire and the beginning of the Persian Empire. And this is how it happened. So Astyages had a daughter called Mandane, and some I saw other sources saying that like she was the only daughter, the only child of Astyages. I'm not so sure about that. I don't know. Some say she was not, but anyways, Mandane was a daughter to Astyages, and when she was around, she was in her teens. Astyages had a dream, and he dreamt that that the daughter um, had peed on herself, and the urine covered the entire of Asia. And in the morning, he called they called the Magis, the like the high priests, and who were known to interpret dreams. And he asked them, "What do you think this dream means?" And they told him it means your daughter is likely to give birth to a son who will conquer the entire of Asia. And that made Astyages very uncomfortable, because what that meant is that that son was not going to be from his own lineages. Of course, they consider that during those times in that particular empire, it was the son who was considered to be like the person to take forward the mantle of the family. So that when Astyages heard that, he was like, that means my daughter is going, whoever my daughter is going to get married to, that family is going to produce a very powerful king or empire that will take over the entire of of Asia. And that was not comfortable for him, because that's this why I think he had sons. He most likely expected one of his sons to be the king, and then maybe the grandchildren to continue the leadership going forward. So that dream made him uncomfortable. And when Mandane was at the age of marrying, Astyages went and looked for somebody to marry her who was not a Mede, and that person was a Persian. And Persians were tribes that the Medes had conquered and made them part of their subjects. They were like second class citizens in the empire. So the fact that Astyages took the daughter to get married to a Persian, it was like he was trying to make it impossible for the offspring from that marriage to be anything, because the Persians to the Medes were just slaves, kind of like they were nobodies. So that's why he did that. The man that married Mandane was called Cambyses. Cambyses won because the son of Cyrus, Cambyses too, he became king and he did a lot. We're going to talk about him in another video. So Mandane gets married to a Persian family that are just ordinary people with nothing showing that they can be anything in future. And as Astyages goes on with his life, and then at some point he hears that Mandane is expectant. And again, he has a dream that shows that a plant kind of grows out of the womb of the daughter of Mandane, and it covers the entire of Asia. And he calls again the high priest and asks about this, and he's told, yeah, that child might turn out to be a great person. And Astyages is uncomfortable, so he sends for his daughter to be brought back home. And the daughter comes home. And when the time to deliver arrives, Astyages has a plan. The child is born, and he takes the baby immediately, and he takes it to be killed. He calls in a guy called Harpagus. This Harpagus is somebody we are going to talk about more and more going forward. So he calls Harpagus. He was one of his kind of like guys in the court, people who used to be there to help him with whatever he was doing as the king. And he tells Harpagus, I want you to take this baby to your place, kill it, bury it. And Harpagus took the baby. He was uncomfortable with this, but the king has said it. So he took the child, the baby, to his house, and he had a conversation with his wife, and he arrives at the conclusion that while he will carry out the king's order, he is not going to be the one to kill. He doesn't want the blood of that child to be in his hands. So he calls a herdsman who used to take care of the cattle of the king. So this herdsman comes, and this herdsman, is his name was Mithridates. Mithridates. It's a kind of difficult name. Most likely it's pronounced in another way by the people who used to speak the language of that time. So this herdsman comes, and Harpagus gives him the baby and tells him, I want you to take this baby, take it to the forest, because this herdsman used to stay in the forest where he used to take care of the animals of the king. I want you to take this baby to the forest, leave it to somewhere remote in the forest, let the animals kill the baby, and then when they have killed the baby, be around just to pick the dead baby, bring it to me, and then we'll bury the baby. So the herdsman took the baby, but as he was leaving, he asked one of the maids in the house of Harpagus, whose baby is this? And then he's told this baby is a baby of the king's daughter, Mandane. And he's surprised and worried and everything, but he has to do what he's been told. So he takes the baby, goes with the baby into the forest. Now, when he left, his wife was expectant as well. And turns out when he left the forest to come pick this baby, the wife gave birth, but the child was stillborn. So when he arrives with a baby, he tells the wife what has happened. The wife tells him, I just had a baby and the baby died. So, and this baby is alive. So why kill this baby? Let's do this. Take this dead baby, put it in the forest for a moment, and then we'll keep this one as our own, and then we can show them the dead baby. And that's what they did. And then they showed Harpagus the dead baby. The baby was buried, and everybody kind of forgot about that. And the baby grew. The one who Mandane's child grew, now Cyrus the Great. And the wife of the herdsman had a name that could be translated to mean a female dog. And that's this, according to Herodotus, that is the source of the myth that Cyrus the Great was breastfed by a group of dogs. So they start myth. So Herodotus was trying to explain that that's where it came from. It came from a misunderstanding out of the spelling of the name of the adopted mother of Cyrus the Great. So Cyrus grew. When he was around 12 years, the step parents came to the town. They usually did that, and they would stay around there. And Cyrus was playing with other kids. And as they were playing, the other kids appointed him to be their king. And then he assigned each of them tasks. And then one of the kids, who was a son of a nobleman, did not do what Cyrus had assigned him to do. So Cyrus punished him. And I have to point out that at this point, Cyrus wasn't called Cyrus. He was going by a different name. So the boy was angry, went home, told the dad, can you imagine, the son of the herdsman punished me? And the dad was so angry. Like, how can a child of a herdsman punish my son? That's not acceptable. So he went to the king, Astyages, and told him, A son to one of your herdsmen just punished my child, and that's not acceptable. And Astyages was also concerned, so he called in the herdsman and said the herdsman comes with a son, and they came and he asked the son what happened, the son of the herdsman. And he explained, he said, you see, these kids appointed me to be their king, and I assigned them tasks, and the boy in question did not do as I asked him to do, and I had to punish him. And even you as the king, that's what you do. And Astyages, looking at this boy, he felt like this boy was not just any other boy. The way he carried himself, his facial expression, the way he talked. And immediately it occurred to him that this might be my daughter's son. Did that boy really die? And he told the nobleman and the son to leave. And then he questioned now the herdsman when they were alone. Tell me the truth. Who is this? Initially, the herdsman kind of continued saying, it's my son. But after a few threats, he opened up and told him everything that happened. The king was angry about it. He called Harpagus and asked him, I gave you a task, what happened? Harpagus said what had happened, and he told him, I also thought the boy was dead. Now, he told Harpagus, you go home and tell your son to come and play with this boy. And this is another thing Astyages did that kind of hastened the fall of the Median Empire. Because when the son came, the king was so angry, he killed Harpagus' son. And he had told Harpagus to go and come back in the evening. There will be a feast, kind of like, to celebrate that Cyrus the Great is still alive. So when Harpagus came back, he was served the meat of his son. And that he didn't realize until he was done, when they showed him the head and the limbs. And then the king asked him, what do you think about the meal and everything? And he was like, whatever the king does is okay. And he left, and he was angry, of course, and he planned to revenge. And so after that, Astyages called the high priest again and asked him, so this boy is alive. This is what happened. The other boys appointed him to be the king. And he was told, the high priest told him, you don't have to worry anymore, because now he has already served as a king. If the other boys appointed him to be a king, he has served as a king, and that's done. So Astyages was happy, but he sent the boy to go back to his home in Persia. So while in Persia, he grew up with his people. Harpagus still wanted to revenge what Astyages did to him by killing his son and feeding him the flesh of his son. So he started sending messages to Cyrus through animals. Like, he will cut an animal, put in a letter, and send it as a gift. And then Cyrus started reading these things, and kind of that persuaded him to organize his tribesmen and attack Mede. So when Astyages heard that Cyrus was coming to attack the Medes, he called Harpagus and made him the general of the army that was going to face Cyrus the Great. What he didn't know, whatever was happening in Persia, it was the work of Harpagus. So when Harpagus left with the army, he didn't fight the Persian, he went and joined them. And Harpagus and Astyages was helpless. Cyrus the Great came with a huge army, took over the Median capital, and captured Astyages. He didn't kill him, he kept him around. In fact, he continued to take care of him until he died of natural causes. And that's how Cyrus the Great became the king of the Persians and the Medes.